Remember when I got accused of Nick being my brother-in-law? When he said that, I thought that. I'm like, oh my gosh, how silly is that? Yeah, seems like yesterday.
It's so cool how all of them come out. I love that.
Support.
To history.
Mm-hmm. Are you online now? Okay. All right, we'll move forward with our next item, which is a presentation from WCG regarding our public outreach for the Transportation Master Plan.
Great. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Jeremy Searle with WCG. We are working with your wonderful staff. They've been awesome to work with on the Transportation Master Plan. I know you have a full agenda tonight, so I'll be kind of brief on this, but I wanted to let you know that we are updating the Transportation Master Plan. This is a critical document that kind of guides the future transportation infrastructure in the city. And if you have any questions throughout tonight, please feel free to ask me. If you have additional questions or things that come up, please reach out to Rob or myself, and we'll make sure that we address those in the master plan. You can see here on the screen, this is your city website under streets. It talks about the Transportation Master Plan, and it gives a link and mentions that we are updating the master plan, and it gives a link to this story map. And so that's shown here. On the story map, we've kind of split it up into different sections so you can go directly to the section that you're interested in. I also want to note this button down here in the corner here that says the public feedback, right? So we're going to start launching this survey and making this available to the public. It's very short, but we want, it's very focused, right? So we want people to be able to tell us what their transportation issues and opportunities are in Mapleton. So they can come in here, they can, zoom in, drop a pin, say, I'm concerned about something here, and then leave a comment and say, I'm worried about crossings or whatever at this point. We have just a couple questions on here on what they think is the most important improvements that they'd like to see here in the city. And what's important to them as far as traveling around the city, and then any additional feedback. So this isn't a long thing, but we want really to give them an opportunity to give open feedback on this master plan. Coming back to here, I think this is a really simple and easy to use website, and we want to direct people here so they can learn and understand what we're doing. This gives just a quick introduction and background of the master plan and what it is. It talks about the vision and goals for that. This is still a work in progress. We've gathered a bunch of information on demographics and how the city is growing through the future so that we are capturing that future travel demand on the roads and planning for that. And so you'll see additional things get added here as we continue to do additional work. This section talks about functional class for the different roadways and what that means. So for example, here's a cross section for collector roads in the city and what those look like. If this is a map of the whole city, if you'd like to see just the collector roads that fit this definition, you can click on that and that'll highlight those, and you can zoom in, look closer. Or we can come down and check out our major locals, things like that. So you can see all the different types of roadways and where they're located in the city. including the UDOT roadways. So, and I know I'm going kind of faster this, so if there's any questions, please speak. Yes.
Just a couple of questions.
Yes.
This is an update to our transportation master plan. When was the last one done?
2010.
20,
Oh, so it's been quite a while.
Yeah.
And
so-
it was in-house. I mean, the people who did it worked hard on it, and it's a good plan, but this is really a new plan. It's not just a simple update. It'll be a pretty substantially new document.
Okay, so in addition to that initial survey, what are the other efforts that will be done from a community engagement standpoint? Having said what you just said, Sean, there could be some potentially big changes. I
Yeah,
mean,
great question.
I mean, we're not going to have a highway coming through the middle
No,
of town.
no
but-
changes like that, right? But we're just talking about making sure that we have the right roadways and intersections for the future, right? But as far as additional outreach, we plan to have a booth at Pioneer Days, which we just heard about a few minutes ago, which sounds amazing. So we'll be here on July 19th and be able to talk to people there. In person, we'll have some maps up and the survey and everything, so we can talk to people and get feedback there. And then, of course, we'll be back to Council and Planning Commission to share some additional items and analysis as we go and talk about future projects and things like that.
So it would be incumbent on people, if they really want to weigh in outside of the 24th of July, to participate in our council meeting. That's what it sounds like.
And the survey,
And the survey, right?
which we're pushing
Okay.
out to the whole city, yeah.
Okay, that was
Okay.
my question too, is are we doing a heavy communication strategy to get survey data?
And on top of that, and Corey, I am assuming the replacement, Madison's replacement, the new communications person has been hired?
She's been hired and she started, yeah, so she's with us.
I'd love to meet her.
And I have talked to her about this. So yeah, what I had asked Jeremy to do is come and present to you first before we go and make this public, so that y'all are aware of what's
That's
going on.
great, yeah.
But yeah, so we'll be working with her to send it out through social media. We'll put it in the newsletter, letting them know that there's going to be a booth, letting them know where to find the survey on there. So really, the online survey is we're going to use every avenue that we can to kind of push them to collect it, because this is really the easiest way for them to give us feedback. Like Jeremy's saying, they can pinpoint a location. We have some questions for them. They can just give us general feedback. So really, I feel like every way they could want to give us some feedback, whether it's a particular location, a general one, or just give us, it's contained on that short survey. We just need to really push them to say, hey, this is available. Come tell us before we start saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. Come tell us what you see as the problems.
Right, and I'd like to see multiple efforts, right, for that outreach. We know that there's an area of town where some of our residents have already, in January, showed up to express their concerns. So that's why I ask, that there's a multi-pronged or multi-day effort to collect as much of that as possible.
Does this survey, I didn't catch it, so maybe it's through scrolling. Are you collecting the information on who's providing the feedback and where they live?
Not specifically on where they live. We don't collect personal information here. This is just for.
I saw it way down at the bottom. I think it said they could submit their name and email. Okay.
Yes,
But
if
it's
you
not
want to,
forced.
if you want to put your email address in here, it's not required, but that way we can give you additional updates when things come out, talk about the booth, or if we're coming to planning commission or things like that, we can send out
Follow
email
up
blasts to
about
those
questions.
that put that in there.
Is there value in having them indicate where they live in the city?
Well, yeah, we could do that in the actual survey though, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We've often done, just like quadrants, which part of town do you live in?
Yeah, like
So
the
if
Yeah.
four
they need-
quadrants, yeah.
if they include-
I'd love to be able to coordinate the highest level concerns with the location, even if it's just quadrant based. I think that correlation would be really interesting in prioritizing their plan. Can we do that?
Yeah, we can add a
I
question.
may be hearing a little bit of the idea of letting you guys take a look at this survey first. Maybe we're sending it to you to give
Well,
some
it doesn't
input,
look
or
quite, I mean, that's fine. It doesn't look really extensive.
Yeah,
It's
I don't.
pretty short, and we meant it to be that way.
Yeah.
We don't want to take a ton of time, but we want to give them some open-ended
Yeah.
opportunities to
If Corey
pinpoint.
sends that out, you could type up the things that you want. We could add to it.
Really, I'm actually very comfortable with what's already
Okay.
there. I would just love to be able to correlate the
Identify
concerns
where.
with the
Yeah,
locations
Even's
generally.
logic, Yeah, I agree.
That's the only addition?
I would agree with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, that's easy. We can add that.
So maybe to clarify, so I know for my side, because I've been through similar processes before, and sometimes there are some people who want to have their comment associated with them, and some who don't want to have their comment associated, with they're less likely to be honest if they know, just because there's some concern. And so that's why we specifically allowed them to include their information or not. We'll still take a look at it one way or the other, but them giving their information can allow us to, if they want to be associated with it and they want some feedback, we can do that. Do we want to also make the location an optional or a not optional?
If it was quadrant based, you're not revealing any
Yeah, we can
personally
pinpoint them.
identifiable
Okay.
information that's even protected in the first place, but a quadrant will give us data. I would force the quadrant one and not force, you don't have it forced right now on providing their
Who they are,
specific
yeah.
information. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, quick question, do you have any avenue for people to give you feedback to add to the data, not electronically, like for our senior citizen group that might not be?
Yeah, great
Computer-
question.
computer savvy.
So at the booth, we'll have opportunities for people to write their comments there. And then, they can always come to Planning Commission or City Council as well.
That'd be
and
great.
express
That
their
could be a
comments.
great luncheon topic, though, for
Yeah.
our seniors.
Maybe bring a paper version of the survey to the luncheon and then get somebody to data entry.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
They don't do it in the summer, though. So the last one's is Thursday, and then they don't start meet till September, but September might be a good time.
So when would you be coming back to the council? What's the timeline on this after the 24th celebration?
So let me just consult my schedule here. So,
Yeah, it could work.
project timeline, we've done the kickoff. We're presenting here early summer. Pioneer Days, we're presenting.
There will be an open house.
Yeah, and we're still talking about that. I think we decided against the open house, is that right?
Well, the open house, the way that we had talked about that is that the survey would allow their initial feedback, and the open house would be where we're presenting the initial, we come to the city council, present our initial findings, and then we'd have an open house to talk about our initial findings.
For another round of some feedback.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so they
I
could
think
see,
that's
they could see
critical.
what it is that we're proposing.
I think that's a
and then
critical
coming back
piece.
to 'em and-
Even if there's 20 people that come, I think that's a really important piece of that feedback loop.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
too. That
Great.
opportunity is good. Reed was mentioning that our seniors group doesn't get together for their lunches during the summertime, so
But they are tomorrow.
they are tomorrow. If there's any chance we can even do something
Tomorrow's outside, right?
little.
It's an outside.
We probably can't move that quickly on it, but I'm sure
Yeah,
there's.
but-
Probably, we could announce to
We
them
could
that
announce
there'll
to
be a
look for it.
paper one available. Come
At-
see us if they're
at the
interested.
booth.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
that they could just come to the city
Fill it
office
out.
But
and
we
fill
could,
it out.
yeah, that's what
I
I
like
was
that.
thinking too, is that when you guys get whatever paper feedback for the Pioneer Days, that we could have that, we could have it at our
The form
Public
of
Works
the-
Department, yeah, to where people could come in. We could put that in the newsletter also and put it up on our website, say, hey, you can come in from starting whenever you guys have it ready until the 19th, we'll have it available to where we
Yeah.
can, then we have
That's great.
everything.
That'd be great.
So, yeah, we can do that.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, so that's the schedule there. Thank you for asking those questions. That's perfect. We'll have the open house in the fall, and then planning to complete this by the end of the year.
How detailed is it going to be, just where the roads are going to be, or would they say, like, we need to put a traffic circle here, and we're going to put a light here, and we're going to?
Yep, we're looking at intersections. Yep, and so in fact, let's go to the safety section here for a second. One of the things, this doesn't go through all the intersections. We'll have recommendations for intersection control. But this section talks about safety, and it looks at the different crashes that have occurred over the last, 5 or so years. And you can see those mapped here. We can also knock those down to just the fatal and severe injury crashes, so not quite as many. You can see where those have occurred. Based on some of this analysis, we also evaluated 4 different intersections in the city. These were actually identified in the MAG, which is the Metropolitan Planning Organization, in their safety action plan. And so we talk about those, the crashes that have occurred at each of those, and make recommendations. And actually, each of these, we're recommending considering a roundabout at these. So roundabouts actually reduce crashes considerably by up to 90%, which surprises a lot of people, but it does. Usually when you put in a signal, a traffic signal, crashes actually increase slightly when that happens. You get a lot of rear end crashes from those red lights and stuff. Roundabouts cause people to drive slower, and any crashes that you have are usually very minor because they're just kind of fender benders, whereas crashes at a signal are usually higher speed and T-bone type crashes and result in worse injuries. So anyway, so that talks about some of those intersections through town there, and we'll do some more analysis on that. One of the things that we spend a lot of time and effort on doing is what's called travel demand modeling, where we take all the socioeconomic data for the city and update the regional model. The regional model models everything across the entire Wasatch Front, and it identifies where future housing and employment and commercial and population are going, and then it models that to see where people are going and coming from and to, so we can see what that future volumes on the roadways will be, to see if we need to widen or add more connections or change the intersection control, things like that. So we've worked pretty diligently over the last couple months to get the future development plans for the city, look through your land use plan and all those things so that we can get that socioeconomic data programmed into that and plan for the future. And then just real quick, this last section in here, this is just an interactive map that people can use. They can turn on different layers and see how those compare. Yeah, there it is. So you can turn on like existing signals in the city, the different streets, and people can just come on and see what they're interested in. Like what's our future volumes on the roadways going to be, right? And so you can see what those are, turn them on and off. And this just gives people a chance to...
Can I ask you a quick question as you're flipping through that?
Yeah.
I can't see clearly what street this is, the green line that goes off into Spanish Fork.
Yep,
Is that the Maple extension?
it is.
Okay, great.
It is, yep.
Thank
And
you.
that's something that we've been modeling and looking at the effectiveness of. And we think this is a great thing to connect over to Canyon Creek Parkway and Spanish Fork, through
Great.
Springville here, so.
Thank you.
That's kind of a big picture. I will say we've really enjoyed working with Mapleton. I think Mapleton has a great advantage over many other cities in that there's not a lot of opportunity for other communities to cut through Mapleton. And we see that being a challenge in a lot of other
That on
communities.
purpose, Jeremy.
Yeah, I mean, it's
That was-
perfect,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
You don't have the whole city of Spanish Fork driving through here to get to the freeway,
We
right?
just dri- we
That's
just
us
drive.
driving through
We just
that.
drive through their
Through
city.
Springville,
That's
right? You guys know how it is. You're just on the good end of it. So, no, it's nice. As we model through the future here, we really don't see a lot of, big volumes on these roads or widening or anything like that. Like, it's really promising for the future, right? There's not a lot of issues there. We just need to make a few connections. We need to plan for some intersections, things like that. But we're not talking major problems here. So anyway, it's been a great project so far. We're really enjoying working on it and plan to continue to do so. We're still pretty early on, but at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I think we've probably peppered you as you've gone, so.
No, that's great.
One quick question. Do you address anything about public transportation, or is that a totally different study?
We do. We do talk about public transportation, and we've reached out to UTA. We have their 5-year service plan, as well as their long-range plan. Unfortunately, Mapleton just is not in their plan
Because of what you just said
Exactly.
before.
Because-
Intent-
yeah,
The
I-
intent, or the both benefits come from being an elbow in the county and
Yeah,
in the
there's
valley.
pros and
so that
cons,
we're
right?
not being cut through by a bunch of people, but I kind of like not having a whole bunch of public transit going through as well, but
Sure.
but it would be nice to know if there's ever any possibility of some kind of more options for public transportation.
So the only thing they have in their long-range plan is a service called VIA, which is basically Uber run by UTA. And so you could call up, say, I need a ride over to the front runner station, which is planned for Spanish Fork, right? I think, hopefully you're aware of that. They're planning to bring front runner down, and there'll be a station over here by Center Street in Spanish Fork and another down here in Payson. So you could call up VIA with UTA and get a ride over to that or something like that. But beyond that, UTA really doesn't have a lot planned for Mapleton.
Yeah, I think part of that will just be addressing that some of these connections into Springville and Spanish Fork are, from a vehicular standpoint, are helpful as well, but it also makes it a shorter distance for anybody that does need public transportation. There are bus routes in Springville, and then there is a future route, I don't think it runs right now, a future route that goes down State Street.
Yeah.
And so it's making those connections to where people can get to, we're trying to make it as easy to get to where it will be, as opposed to there's really a demand to make sense for UTA to bring it through Mapleton. So.
What about bike lanes and walkable paths? Do you guys address that at all?
Yes, a little bit. So you just recently finished an active transportation plan that addresses most of that, right? And so we're really not trying to redo that, since you just barely did that and put a lot of effort into it. And it's
But it'll
done
overlap
really well.
and
But there's a little bit of overlap, right? So we're looking at sidewalks, and where there's gaps there, we're looking at crossings, making sure they're safe, things like that. So there is some overlap, but
great.
Do anything with street lighting?
ooh, street lighting, we haven't talked about that.
No, we've have an ordinance. I would say our ordinance right now is we're trying to balance half the people want more street lighting and half the people don't want any street lighting. And so our street lighting criteria right now tries to balance that, where we have less spacing than some of the surrounding cities, and we have particular, any of the new streetlights that go in we have a standard of which streetlight they need to put in, and really it's one that casts it to the ground and not up into the sky. And so unless the feedback is we need to do something different in the public feedback,
I just asked you a question.
Yeah, no, so the short answer is no, we think we've got it. We think we've got the right balance, but if we get a whole bunch of feedback on it's not the right balance, then maybe we'll talk about it, but we don't have any plan to change at this point.
I'm excited to play with it and people to see what they can do, and I just really hope people engage with this. I'm confident this interactivity is different than when we did this previously, so looking forward to it.
Yeah. No, we're excited to work on it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great tool. Thanks, Jeremy.
Okay.
Good job.
Yep.
All right, we'll move forward now with our public forum. We have one person that signed up. So, Jonathan, if you want to, prior to the consent agenda on our public forum. So, Jonathan, if you want to come up now, you can.
Public hearing, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I had the public hearing in mind.
Awesome, thanks for having me.
If you'll state your name for Camille.
Jonathan Kobia. If I seem like I'm in pain, I am. I've been doing kidney stones this week, but I wanted to come in and talk to you guys. I wish the rec people were still here. They're awesome to work with, and that's actually what I was going to come and talk to you guys about was Pioneer Days. Working with them, been great. I worked with the Lakes lots of times. I know Wiscombe, Clark and his wife. Clark was my scoutmaster. Cool dude. Etah, was that the other?
EHAT.
Don't know them, but I'm sure they'll do good.
They're great.
But just had a couple comments, and this isn't really a demand, but it's a consideration. In 2023, at each location, Ira Allen Park and City Park, it was $50. $50 here, $50 here. In 2024, it changed. I didn't do much about it, but I probably should have. It was 150 and 150. And this year, once again, it's 150 and 150, which is an increase of 300% from 1 year, 2023 to 2024, which is pretty big when your margins and stuff aren't very big. For example, if somebody did $2,400 in sales, more than half of that went to food. So we're down to, let's say, $1,000 in profit. We'll say profit. That doesn't include your hirees, which is all day, basically. So if you have two hirees, you're $150 a piece, so there's $300. Plus another $150 at each location, there's another $300. you're basically down to $400 or $500 making money off of that event. So my consideration, like what you guys would consider, is just to maybe try and decrease that a little bit. It doesn't include electricity. It doesn't include water. There is electricity that can be included, but it's an extra $50. But just a consideration for people who are coming in, because all I'm going to have to do now is bump each one of my items up $1, which it might hurt, it might not, I don't know.
Can
Or
you
the
give
name-
Talking
us,
about like essentially a booth rent spot for the food vendor, right?
that would
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so each location is $150,
Yeah.
$150, which is
Yeah.
$300. It's a lot of money, like I said, from 2023 to 2024, that was a 300% increase. That is a lot. And so I'm just wondering, where did we get that number from? How did it go from 50 at each location to 150? So that's kind of where I was at on that.
Curious, have we talked, I mean, we have resident and non-resident discounts for rentals and things like that. Have we talked about using this advantage to have a discount for someone who is a resident?
We could look at that. I think
I'd
the key,
I'd be interested to see if those numbers pencil for our expenses with the things we do, but I'd love to look at that.
yeah, let me do some research, obviously get Logan involved, and also what I like to do is see what other cities are doing
Yep.
at their events and what their costs are coming in at, but.
Good feedback.
And I know some events are super expensive. For example, Comic-Con up in Salt Lake is $2,000 a day. But there's
The traffic is a
there's
little
a
different.
way good traffic flow in that. So it was just a consideration for you guys to kind of think over and stuff like that, so.
Yes, great. We'll review it with them.
So if you move your truck to the other place, it's 150 there, you don't, it's not 150 per unit,
Nope, it's 150 each location per day, so it's,
even though you have one truck.
So
yep.
maybe there's an all-day price that's like get both locations for a
Yeah.
cheaper price. Yeah.
And I know they don't have as
Something
many
like that.
trucks at City Park
Yeah.
as Ira Allen, because Ira Allen's bigger, but that would be a cool thing to do. You know, if you did City Park, okay, you get a little discount here, or vice versa, or whatever, so.
Yeah.
Looking at, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jonathan. We'll get with Logan on it, Corey, and review that with him. And
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you,
Okay,
guys.
appreciate it. Good luck, getting better.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, so we'll move forward to our consent agenda item. Looking for a motion for consent agenda items.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Jones and a second by Councilman Garrett.
Carlson, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
All right, the next 5 items is, obviously you know what it is. We've been talking about it, reviewing it. Bryce, each one has a public hearing portion, so if you want to just kind of run through them. Item 7 first, consideration of a resolution amending the current fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
That's for an old man.
Thank you, Mayor. As Dallas mentioned, you've seen the budget, you've reviewed it very well, and I appreciate the comments and the input that you've given on the budget. Some highlights for the,
Are you not doing the amendment?
which one are we on? Oh, this is the amendment budget. Yeah, item 7 is the amendment to the budget, just to clarify that.
Yeah, the amending part.
Yeah.
That's what I heard, yeah. Yeah, we should be.
Perfect. So this is amending the fiscal year '25, our current budget. This one is truly a big reason to do this is to make sure we're going to stay in compliance come the audit, and amending changes that were already approved in prior council meetings. The big one would be the salary increase that was approved in January. We're going to amend this budget to reflect the actual change now that we have those actual results. We'll amend that, and then along with that is increasing the fire volunteer salaries and overtime due to the use of volunteers and some part-time in fire. And then increasing the projected surplus, changing the projected surplus to transfer to the capital projects fund to $297,000. And then in the enterprise fund, some items that I highlighted were just, I'm adjusting depreciation to reflect more accurately what it was last year and what I'm expecting it to come in this year. That is a non-cash item, so ultimately that will not affect the budget. I just want to have some padding there. and a little more accuracy with that. And then we are increasing the solid waste expense due to increased fees from both Republic Services and South Utah Valley Solid Waste District. So we wanted to increase that to give us some breathing room there. And then we're increasing the sewer debt service to account for the debt service that we have going on there. And you saw in the consent agenda was our sewer agreement. This should be our final, and we should have our final sewer numbers moving forward. So that's good. Any questions that you guys had with the budget amendment?
No.
Okay, I'll turn the time over.
Okay,
back to you.
that's, that being the case, we'll open it for public comment. If you have a comment you'd like to make regarding this amendment, come forward. Seeing there are none, we'll close the public hearing portion. Look for a motion of the amendment.
I'll make a motion to approve the presented amendment for the current fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
I'll
Second.
second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Egbert and a second by Councilmember Jones.
Egbert, yes.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Carlson, yes.
Number 8 is consideration of resolution adopting the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget, position list and fee schedule. Rice?
All right, so along the same lines, I just wanted to highlight a couple of items. Obviously, this is not the full budget, but you guys have reviewed that as well, and I appreciate the time you've put into that. Our property tax revenues are budgeted at $3.3 million, and that should be our final certified tax rate, which we'll get to later. Sales tax revenues have been interesting this year. Fortunately, Mapleton hasn't been as affected as other cities have been affected, but we are decreasing that budget just based on what other cities are going through. And we're part of the Utah pool and will be affected by that as well, but we're not as heavily reliant as those other cities. And then the total fund, governmental fund revenues are $11,816,000. And property tax and sales tax are our biggest contributors there. In the enterprise fund, I just wanted to highlight the enterprise budgeted revenues. So our culinary water revenue is going to be budgeted at $2.7 million. Our sewer utility billing revenue at $3.6 million. Mapleton City Network, Mapleton Fiber is budgeted at $1.9 million, and pressurized irrigation at $1.5 million. Some additional items that I wanted to point out were this budget accounts for a 3% merit increase. And then there were 5 individuals that are being caught up to in their pay range. So the 3% merit increase will not move the pay scale. It will move individuals along the pay scale. And then same with those other individuals. They're being moved along the current pay scale. And then Councilmember Egbert emailed some good points about the fee schedule that we wanted to touch on. Some of them being, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the consensus would be to change some of the fees. For example, soccer clinics, we've got those listed at $96 and $108.
They can't. They have to be multiples of 5.
So if we're good with those types of changes, I think between Logan and I and the input that Councilmember Egbert gave us, I think we could make those changes with this. Any other?
No, that was minor in terms of the quantification. That I requested the biggest thing to me was the day and night and commercial versus residential, adding clarity to how we present our fee schedule so that it's just clear to people, especially residents that want to reserve our facilities.
Great. I'll work.
Really
with
wanted
you.
was $100.50.
$100.27.
Make her twit. Okay, so that would be the only changes that we would make to this once approved. But thank you for that input. That's all the items I wanted to point out. So I want to turn the time over for you for questions.
I think you've been asked them all through email from these guys. So let's open it for a public hearing. If you have any comments regarding the adopting the fiscal year budget, you can come forward now. John. All right.
Do I have to say who I am?
Yes, you do.
John Higgins. I was looking on the website to find this budget, and I couldn't find it. Where's it located where the citizens could look at it?
It's this tiny little thing in the corner. You have to like scroll down, and I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was just, it'd be interesting to see how things are.
It's in the packet.
It's in a, explain how on our website, how that works.
Go ahead, Bryce.
In the website, it's in the council meeting agenda, so it's available there for you to look at now. It's also available here in the office to come and look at it, but once adopted, it will also be put into the financial. There's I'm sure you saw the finance department. Okay, so in the finance, in departments, under departments, in finance, financial information, it's all of our financial budgets and audits are located there.
You have those reports, they go back 3 or 4 years, if I recall.
We'll send you a link.
years.
We'll send you a link, John.
John, if you
We'll send you a link.
Yeah, we can do
if you
that.
go to the council agenda and scroll down, you'll see that's like 30, 40 pages, and every line is there with the increase and decrease.
Yeah.
But actually, there's a paper copy right there for you to take home.
All right.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Any other comments? Seeing there are none, we'll close the public hearing portion. Look for a motion.
I'd just like to say I congratulate everybody for putting this complex thing together with creativity. It sure changed over the last 7 years that we've been in, hasn't it? The team's doing a good job. I
Thank you, Reed.
commend them.
I appreciate that.
No question. Reed, I second that.
Thank you.
This is item 8, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt the fiscal year 25-26 budget, the position list, and fee schedule.
I'll second it.
A motion by Councilmember Jones, and a second by Councilman Carlson.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Carlson, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Great. Number 9 is consideration of an ordinance setting the compensation of statutory officers. Bryce?
Okay, yeah, this is our new law to, when there's an increase in statutory officer salaries, that it's a public hearing item. I've presented those numbers to you guys, and turn the time back to you for the public hearing.
All right. Any questions? This is also a public hearing item. We'll open it for public comment. Just state your name, Lacey, for the record.
Lacey Larson. I'm just seeing this, and tell me if I'm wrong, because I might be misunderstanding what I'm reading, but is this that we're discussing giving a 20.6% raise to the Parks and Rec Director and a 12.3% to the Finance Director?
Yeah, Corey, do you want to explain the way we've been doing this?
So a couple years ago, we were able to reach out and get a consultant involved who helped us put the market study together. And based on that, we then follow that on an annual basis to just see what that market study's showing. And a couple of these job titles, we're finding that the market study had increased on them, and what we had shown was too low. And so what we're doing is just bringing those in to make sure we're following within that market study. What the market study does for us, it gives us a minimum and a mid and a max, and we just follow along what that study shows us with that.
The main reason this came out is because of what happened through COVID and with inflation and everything.
Yeah.
It got baked into the wages, and when inflation bakes into the wages, then it's there to stay essentially. And so in order for us to keep the people that we have, and this has been done through all private business too, is adjustments had to be made according to what the cost of living is and all these other parameters that go into it. And so what Corey's talking about is this graph that we watch and make sure that the people that we have hired, if they're good and they're performing well, then they'll get an increase. But those bigger increases you're seeing there are adjusting their wage to what it actually should be. So for
They've been below
example,
market for a long time.
yeah,
They're
and so
historically underpaid positions. We're trying to catch up.
we're at risk of losing them because other cities are after them because they're good.
Okay,
And
and
so-
so other cities of similar size to ours are paying?
Yeah, there's
certain
probably a
amount?
dozen parameters that calculate into what that maximum min and average is. That's one of them.
Okay.
Cities similar size is one of those parameters, so.
Right, because I would imagine that someone of that position in a much more larger city would receive more.
Right.
But in a
Same
small
with city
town-
managers and all that, that's right.
Yeah, so that's what that is catching up. Okay, it just struck me as that, at first it seems like, wow, I want that job.
That's a good increase, huh?
Yeah.
I want that this year too, that'd be great.
You have
Yeah.
to consider what the base
But you have to,
was.
that's right. You have to remember where they
20%
were.
Looks like a lot,
Yeah.
but it's 20% of what?
Of
Yeah.
what they were, that they would be getting this raise. And these would be the raises for next year, taking effect, that they would get these raises.
Yeah, it's our fiscal year budget, which starts July 1st.
Okay,
So we go from July 1st, June 29th, so.
okay,
Yeah.
perfect, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Good question. Anybody else? All right, seeing there are no more comments, we'll close the public hearing portion and look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance setting the compensation of statutory officers.
I'll second.
A motion by Councilmember Jones, a second by Councilmember Egbert.
Garrett, yes.
Carlson, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Jones, yes.
Great. Item 10 is consideration of resolution adopting the 2025-2026 certified tax rate as calculated by Utah County. Bryce?
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, the county has provided us with our tax rate this year, so don't make me do the formula tonight by memory, but it is the proposed tax rate value of Mapleton City. So all of our assessed home values has equaled out to $2.3 billion. And then the tax rate, it is not, we're not changing the tax rate, but the county has adjusted the tax rate to reflect that new value so that they can try and hit the same target that they hit last year. And then really due to growth, our projected revenues would increase about $200,000 to $300,000. So I think it was 3.1 is what they assigned last year. That's increasing to 3.95. So, yeah, any questions with that?
Okay. This is also a public hearing item. We'll open it for public comment.
The auditor's certified tax rate is 0.001456. That is not the same as last year's. It's adjusted based off of the values. Yeah.
That's something you gotta go talk to the county about, but yeah.
Come and talk to me.
Or we can find out from Bryce more. Okay, seeing there are no more public comment, we'll close the public hearing portion. Look for a motion.
I'll propose that we accept the county tax rate for this next fiscal year, item 10.
Adopt the certified tax rate.
Yes.
Yep.
I should say it properly, sorry.
Okay, you're good.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Carlson, a second by Councilmember Jones.
Carlson, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
All right, item 11 is consideration of a resolution to approve inter-fund transfers from the Water Fund to the Capital Projects Fund of $101,135, Sewer Fund to the Capital Projects Fund of $135,835, PI Fund to the Capital Projects Fund of $56,186, Stormwater Fund to the Capital Projects Fund of $20,227 to pay for current and future vehicle replacements. Bryce?
Thank you, Mayor. That one's a big one. Basically, we're just contributing the amounts for our vehicle replacement, and as we are taking money from an enterprise fund to any other fund, we're required to do a public hearing for that. So, but in short, this is for each of our enterprise funds to participate in the citywide vehicle replacement plan.
Any questions?
No.
It's one we've also had lots of conversation about. Okay, it's a public hearing item. We'll open it for public comment. Seeing there are none, we'll close the public hearing portion and look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the interfund transfers as presented in item 11.
I'll second it.
A motion by Councilmember Councilmember Egbert, and a second by Councilman Carlson.
Egbert, yes.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Carlson, yes.
Okay, we're going to Bryce has some obligations he's got to get to, so we were going to move our discussion item number 15 up. Well, let's go there. It's a discussion item to review the fraud risk assessment. Mr. Euler.
Thank you. I sent that out in the council packet, and you've had a chance to see our results there, which, similar to last year, were positive. And I can't assign a number to preventing fraud. I can't stress that enough. However, the items that the action that we take to get our score on the fraud risk assessment, those items are important. The largest is separation of duties, and we do our best with our staff to separate duties and separate responsibilities and have second set of eyes on our responsibilities and duties. So yeah, that's the best takeaway from the fraud risk assessment is our separation of duties. And yeah, any questions or comments from that? And
Just
it's
a
just a
discussion item, so if you have any
Great to see the low
comments.
risk again. Very, very low. risk.
Very low
Very
risk.
low risk.
Good job for
Yeah.
everybody involved. I think it's awesome.
Good job, Bryce. Thanks.
Okay.
You can leave.
Thank you. Thanks
Okay.
for.
We'll
moving
call you if we have
forward.
any other questions.
Okay, yeah,
You're right.
I'll answer.
Good job with the budget and getting it all done.
Thank you. Appreciate your help with that.
All right, we'll go to item number 12, consideration of resolution to adopt the stormwater master plan. Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, Mayor. So in the end, there's going to be three separate resolutions, but just I'm going to do everything all as one presentation. If you have any questions, you can ask me throughout the presentation, or if you want to just wait till the end. Either way, I'm fine with that. So master plan timeline, we hired Hanson Allen in spring 2024 as the consultant. Spring through the fall, we went through the areas where we identified where we had known places where there was a lot of street flooding, or locations where we knew that homes frequently flooded from groundwater issues, or places where we had significant standing water in retention ponds. Just we had a bunch of different things that we identified for them. They did a fair amount of modeling of seeing where models showed how much retention we needed to be able to take care of our stormwater. We came up with the initial projects and the cost estimates, and then in fall of 2024, if you recall, they came and made a presentation during a city council meeting, and the direction at that time was to have further discussions specifically with Reed and Theron, and kind of get some more detailed feedback before we finalize the master plan. And we did that through this winter and spring. Based off of that feedback, we finalized this master plan and are bringing it forward now for your consideration and hopefully approval, as well as the impact fee analysis and plan. So going through just very quickly again, existing conditions, a majority of our system is retention, meaning that it's captured, put into either an underground system or an above ground retention pond and infiltrated into the ground. There is no outfall for a majority of the subdivisions, especially the newer subdivisions within Mapleton City. There is one storm drain outfall into Dry Hollow. I'll point here to this screen, that empties out into Springville and eventually meets down further down into Dry Creek. There are limited storm drain connections, mostly to the kind of central west side of town that connects there into that Dry Hollow. There was a recent master planning effort on Dry Creek between Spanish Fork and Springville to see what they would need to do in terms of their making sure that their drainage was taken care of. And basically the finding was that in terms of the capacity within that Dry Hollow tributary that we dump into, there's really only capacity, a current capacity of 10 CFS, which I know what that means because of drainage, but basically that means from a city standpoint, like a drop in the bucket, not very much at all. There's not much capacity, just because historically, where it was a lot of fields and there was less development, there just wasn't a need for an outfall. There wasn't much water going into it, and we had never gone into, the city had never gone into do any improvements along there because of that, because historically we just weren't dumping anything into that area. So for at least a couple of decades now, all new subdivisions have had the requirement to retain and infiltrate 100% of their 100-year design storm, 24-hour, 100-year design storm. The existing challenges that we face is that the older parts of town where they could just kind of flood into the open fields, there is not built-in retention, in the streets or in those subdivisions. They were just kind of able to overflow into fields. For a lot of the history of Mapleton, that didn't matter. Right now, as we've seen, a lot of those open fields are being developed, redeveloped into commercial and largely residential properties. And from a city standpoint, we can only require the developer to retain and infiltrate what is produced by their subdivision. If the older parts of town used to drain into there, we can't make them take care of that. Like, it's the city's responsibility. So those are some of the existing challenges as more area is redeveloped. There are a lot of areas of town that have high groundwater, especially some of the remaining areas that still have to be developed are in high groundwater areas. We have some areas that have high clay or silty content, and so they're not the best for infiltration. And retention systems, just by their nature, because any amount of silt that gets in there can clog up the system. There is a high amount of maintenance that we've got to do, which is why a couple of years ago we came to you to hire another, and we did hire another storm drain maintenance guy. And again, maybe the biggest one is that we've only got one outfall, and it's got very little capacity for an entire city. And that's not to mention, that's just the in-city potential for flooding, not to mention that we also have Maple Canyon that thankfully hit right at our capacity, and we were able to contain it and take care of it. But if what FEMA says currently says is the potential of a 100-year flood out of the canyon, that's what the flooding would look like before it gets to the hollow. And so we're taking a look at all of that. So our solutions, as we work through solutions, our first one was to focus on, we know what the problem areas are, we know what the historic problem areas are. We've got guys that have worked here for several decades, so we wanted to focus on that and not just kind of, take a look at this blindly like we didn't know. We do know recurring problem areas. So the solutions within the city, our proposal is to continue retention for new development. We just don't have an outfall to where we can, have our primary program be something different. So we're going to continue requiring retention for new development. We're going to, where we do have an outfall and so that we can build out an emergency overflow for some of these problematic areas of town, we need to get easements for Dry Hollow. I mean, it's a known wetland area. It's not like everybody knows in that area that it gets wet, right? Nobody's building in there, but really we should make it more official, and then put a restrictor where as more stuff develops to where we are making sure that we're only putting out 10 CFS in the end, and then to extend some storm drain into these problematic areas to where we could have an emergency overflow. So the primary, the first program or the first solution will be the retention, but if things fail or as we need to kind of move some water around like we had to in that big rain on snow event we had a couple of years ago, that we do have an outfall system that we can pump to even as things develop out in these areas. And then we have been doing the last few years, about 120,000 has been the what we put into the budget to do kind of miscellaneous retention to some of these areas where it's just older parts of town. They are in gravelly areas. We just need to add more retention because the fields that they used to drain into are going. We're just going to continue to do that to put that money towards building out these miscellaneous kind of retention areas that we need to do.
Hey, Rob, can
go
I ask
ahead.
a quick question about that?
Yep.
Say that again. You're going to put in some retention areas, like where are these retention areas?
It's throughout the city. So, and which we've done, like about a year and a half ago, we put in an underground retention system at 600
These are
East 400 North.
underground retention systems that we talked about. Yeah,
anything
yeah,
that we're
okay.
doing is underground, yeah.
Different than the retention ponds or retention basins in new development.
That sometimes
Got
the
it,
new
okay.
development puts in, yeah. All of our stuff would be underground
Okay.
that we do in this miscellaneous program. But it's really kind of all over town. There's some of these areas of town in these blue, these are the areas where we know that really the solution is we just need a little bit more retention. So it could be,
I just wanted that clarification for my own clarification. Okay.
yeah, so we've been doing that. They're not as noticeable because then we pave over the top of them again.
Great, okay.
The solutions for Maple Canyon, it's kind of a multi-step process. So number one, the proposal is we're going to go to FEMA. We don't think that it's 325 CFS is what they say is the 100-year flow potential. 83 was by far the biggest flood event that ever came out of Maple Canyon, and the estimates that I've seen are somewhere between 100 and 200 CFS. And so the thought that there could be a 325, or most years we see zero. The biggest one that we've ever seen in over 100 years was half that. There's some analysis that we can do, and we need to go back to FEMA and just say, hey, let's agree on a more reasonable actual flood risk before we go and propose a solution. So that'll be our step number one, is get with FEMA and see if we can get that revised down. Number two, just more of what we did a couple of years ago. We need to continue cleaning up the ditch. There's a couple of culverts that we could improve, and then divert more to the irrigation pond. There's some things that we could do. There already is a pipe over to the retention pond from the ditch off of 400 North. There's some improvements that we could do to make it more efficient. We can more efficiently get water over to the pond if there's a fair amount coming through. Even on the low flows, we could, there's some changes that we can make to get more flow over there easily. And then step number 4 then would be, after we work through all of these steps and we've got agreement, FEMA to agree on what it should be, the 100-year flow, and we've done all these other things to better utilize the systems that we have, then we could go through and build an outfall to Hobble Creek. The overall costs shown in the master plan, the capital improvements plan in the master plan was also used for the impact fee facilities plan that determines how much is developer responsibility and what their impact fees will be. That's about $12 million worth of in-city was the estimate. Maple Canyon outfall depends on what we can get them to agree to, but if we utilize and they stick with the 325 CFS, then it would be about $8.6 million is the projected cost of building an outfall over to Hobble Creek. If we can get them to revise it down, what we think is more along the lines of what it should be, which is around 120 to 130 CFS. The capacity that we have right now is about 30. But we could drop that down to 4.8 million, and then we are proposing to continue doing our miscellaneous for those areas around where we just need to add some additional storage in the existing areas, is doing that at about $120,000 of today's money per year. And so the funding options, we're going to look through. Our next step is to look, for grants when available. The highest potential when it comes to flood-related grants is when it's associated with the FEMA floodplain. So the Maple Canyon outfall is the one that we think is the highest potential of getting some grant funding for. And so once we work through what the flow rate should be, then we can go through those grant processes and try to get them to pay for a significant portion of that outfall. We also, we're going to propose raising the stormwater utility rate, and I'll get to that and to the why. And then we are proposing to implement an impact fee for new development, which we have not had previously. Before I get into the details of that, are any questions on that? So the details on what I'm proposing for the stormwater utility rate, I'm proposing to increase increase the stormwater utility rate. Right now it's $5 per month per residence to $10 per month. Understanding that is a large increase in terms of percentage. That is twice the amount. If you look at the comparison of where we are, part of the reason why why we need to raise it this much is because right now we're at the very bottom. And on the next slide, I'll show you that really covers our operations and our maintenance. It doesn't leave us room. We've had to be able to even do projects right now. We've had to borrow on our reserves, which are in the hundreds of thousands. We don't have millions of reserves in stormwater. We have to borrow reserves to really do any projects because for a lot of years, Mapleton just didn't do any projects because
That's right.
we could just
Because
overflow
there's
into
no
fields.
retention. But just
Yep.
to clarify, we're not doubling it because we're the bottom.
Nope.
We like to obviously make sure the costs stay as low as we can get them. We're raising it because of what you just saw on the
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, we're raising it because there are needs that
Just
require that.
FYI, where
Yeah.
we sit with other cities.
Yep. I'm just clarifying.
clarifying that.
That doesn't bring us from the middle up to the top. That brings us from the bottom to the middle.
Yep.
But really, I'm proposing to raise it because we need the money to get projects done.
that's
It's
right.
not just to bring
Correct.
us to the middle. Correct. Yeah. Thanks for that clarification. The way that I'm proposing to do it is to notify, send out notifications in the July newsletter. That would be for the, utility billing for June that goes out in July. We'll send a notification in that newsletter. And then the rate increase would be for the July utility billing that goes out in August. So that's what I have put into my proposal and my proposed resolution. The stormwater impact fee, that's what it would look like, is based off of the, some of this is to address existing, some of it is based off of development, because even though they are building 100-year retention, just because of the nature of retention, there needs to be, you need emergency overflow. You need a way out if the system fails. And so our consultant went through what they, following the state law, what they believe is the developer's responsibility. Our projected development over the next 5 years and what that would mean on a per unit basis. They have determined that equates to $975.86 per equivalent residential unit. We worked through them with us on this. There's a wide variety on how cities implement it, but what we're proposing to do is we'll stick with the 1 unit, and really it's kind of an equivalent runoff or what the risk, flood risk is based off of each one. But talking through and the different ways that we could do it, what we discussed with them on is that we would apply 1 equivalent residential unit to anything up to 0.5 acres, 1.9 for anything up to 2 acres. That generally puts us on the middle to lower end of what other cities are doing, but we feel like this is as a new one is the right number for this impact fee. And again, that's to cover the new development's impact on the need for these new projects. And then just kind of go spell a little bit deeper into the needed to further revised fee. So this fiscal year, we've got about $334,000 in projects and transfers, and those transfers include stormwater's transfers for utility bills like our power, trash costs, and the vehicle replacement. That's transfers. And then the projects I had, $140,000 for this master plan and $120,000 in projects. As you can see, that meant that I used up the projection is needing almost $209,000 out of reserves. And again, that's even discounting the master plan. That means for $120,000 in projects, which really is not a large amount when it comes to a retention system. That's not a huge retention system. That already digs into the even discounting the master plan. I would have needed to use reserves just to cover this year's projected costs. We really need to build out the storm drain system and an overflow system on top of that as more of these fields get built out. And so again, that just goes back to what Dallas was saying. So by revising the fee, that's $415,000 in our projects and transfers. So the master plan projects, that gives me $275,000 to start building out this year to start building out that master plan kind of storm drain system. Still $120,000 in miscellaneous projects, so going in and adding the retention areas into the older parts of town. And then paying our portion of the utilities and the vehicles, and even increasing that total amount, we use, raising that means that we're not drawing on our reserves anymore. Our reserves are, I think our projections, I should have written that in here, but I think we're at a little less than 300,000 in reserves. So we're already kind of small on the stormwater reserves. So to be able to do any of these projects, I've got to have the money to do it. That's the short answer on this. So I've got 3 proposed resolutions, and they're separated out just to make sure that we're following state law, since a couple of these things have to, have their own resolutions and notifications. So I've split it into 3, one to approve the master plan, and the impact fee facilities plan and impact fee analysis that Hanson Allen did. The second one would be adopt the stormwater impact fee of $975.86 per equivalent residential unit, and that would, by state law, would go into effect in 90 days from adoption. And then it would be to adopt the revised stormwater utility fee of $10 per month. And again, the way that I've written the resolution is that the notification, or that would be implemented in the August utility bill. That means that would give us time to notify the residents of the increase in the July newsletter with their, the utility bill that goes out in July. Are
Okay.
there any questions?
Of course not. Why would we have any?
Well, one of the things I appreciate this, as a citizen, these things affect me in a positive way to anticipate and de-risk my life, So I think it's critical that our numbers are accurate. And so I appreciate digging back into this. One of the additional action items, I'll scoot up. One of the additional action items that I think we need to be very savvy about is the next legislative session, because we have initiatives coming up to prevent cities from charging certain impact fees or setting certain rates. Not that this is anything new, but it's coming back. And so we need to be actively advocating with our legislature, using the data we have, so that we don't end up in a position at the end of the next legislative session that current citizens are paying for the infrastructure for future citizens that they may or may not want. So just as part of this conversation, I think it's critical that we make sure we're actively engaged legislatively to be able to sustain a government closest to the people, among one thing, but also that we can fund these critical projects, because it's possible those things will get threatened in the next session. I think we can anticipate that. So just putting a little asterisk on the action plan, yes, projects, and political advocacy is going to have to happen too.
Yeah. Maybe I could add to that, the one thing that it brought to mind. The other thing too is to make sure that our own stormwater criteria is making sure that it is correct and that it is putting the onus on the right person. So there actually, the one thing that I forgot to add in here is that there were recommendations that Hanson Allen made for us to, this next time that we update our design guidelines, that there's some proposed updates to our stormwater criteria for new development, and we'll be looking at that and
Awesome.
implementing those. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions?
I'll just make a comment. I think it's important for the citizens to know that this, when I first started getting involved in the city, not much was talked about when it comes to stormwater. And the more and more we study it, and the more we realized the years and years and decades that we've been at high risk of flooding and citizens' homes being flooded and other catastrophic things from a 100-year storm, but not just a 100-year storm, but for just high water table and big rainstorms and flash rainstorms. I think it's scary to know how long we went without knowing how big of a risk it was. And it's a big price tag to say, how are we going to tackle this and fix the problem? Because the problem doesn't just stay the same as we grow out and develop, as has been mentioned. The problem becomes worse because we have less open dirt absorbing this water. So it's a big price tag, and I appreciate the hard work that's gone into studying this and figuring out exactly where we're at. $12 million of today's money is going to be a lot more than that 10, 15 years before we even get any of or all of this implemented, if we even can. So I just think it's important that the citizens know the situation we're in and the situation that we have ahead of us, and that this is important.
Yeah, we're just suffering from a decision that was made 35 years ago to not put storm drain in, and it's not in.
Yeah.
So we'll fix it.
Yep.
We'll do the best we can to fix it.
Yep.
And 35 years from now, they're not going to say those dummies made their own decision, hopefully. Right, Rob?
Yes.
Okay, so any other questions?
Nope.
All right, Okay, so we're going to do this all three separate. So we'll go to the first one. We'll look for a motion for the,
Going to do public hearing on all three.
excuse me. Yes, on number 12, we'll open this stormwater master plan, that specific item up for public comment. For public hearing, seeing there are no comments, we'll close the public hearing portion and look for a motion.
I motion to adopt the resolution, to approve the resolution adopting the stormwater master plan.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jones, a second by Councilman Carlson.
Carlson, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Okay, great. We'll go to item 13, which is consideration of an ordinance to implement a stormwater impact fee. We'll open it for public hearing. So no public comment. We'll close the public hearing portion. Look for a motion for item 13.
I make a motion to approve an ordinance to implement a stormwater impact fee.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jones and a second by Councilman Garrett.
Do we need to make a note that that's a revised stormwater fee? It's not a new fee?
Implement a
For
stormwater.
the
This is the
record.
impact fee, right, that we're doing right now?
This one's the impact.
So
This
the
one's
impact fee is
This one's
new.
the impact,
fee's
Yeah.
new.
which is new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The utility fee is not.
And then the increase is the next
Oh,
one.
I got you.
Yep.
Egbert, yes.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Carlson,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, item 14, consideration of an ordinance to increase the stormwater utility fee. This is the one that's increasing from 5 to 10. We'll open for public comment. Otherwise, you wasted this whole time.
Somebody's got to say something.
We need
Maybe
some,
a couple questions, like I saw.
If you'll state your name first, John.
John Higgins, thanks. Maybe Rob can answer, but on the slide, he said that some of the fees would be used for utilities and vehicles.
Okay,
Now,
so-
I didn't understand that.
Okay, that was the change in the budget. What happens is you have these different enterprise funds, and so the funds come in, but then we have to purchase vehicles that work all those things. So PI, culinary water, sewer, all those things. Those vehicles are used to perform the work for all of those. So what you do is you take the funds and transfer them to a vehicle replacement plan that we're replacing those vehicles for.
So you're just having a chunk of the public works vehicles dedicated to stormwater, or, you know, 'cause I
No.
thought you had some other fund for vehicle replacement.
Just
or
using
something.
some of the fees to pay for the vehicles that are used to accomplish the work.
All
So
right.
And
forget
it's spread.
stormwater for a minute, because
Okay.
the vehicle replacement was prior to his presentation of stormwater. So you have all the different the fees that we all pay that go into a fund. Well, in order to perform the work when a water line breaks or fix a sewer
Sure,
line or all
sure,
that,
sure.
we've got all these equipment and vehicles
Yep,
that are,
I
so we're
understand that.
taking funds from those, putting them to our vehicle replacement plan to buy new vehicles, buy new equipment, and replace old vehicles and old equipment. So we have a vehicle replacement plan that goes out 5 and 10 years, and so you can look at that and see what the projection of funds are that we need, and that gets divvied up amongst those funds to pay for it.
Okay.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have the money to.
Do we have, how much of the fee is actually going to be used for projects, not the utilities or the vehicles?
Of this specific stormwater?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have a projection for that today.
Well, I mean, you could, I'd have to take a look back at go back to our previous slide, but when it comes between the, I think, if I'm trying to remember the numbers off the top of my head, I think my overall stormwater projected budget for next year is around 650,000. And between the master plan and what I'm calling the miscellaneous of going to the older parts of town and putting in retention, that is 390. What would it be? 395,000 out of about 650,000. But I mean, what I would say too is a large part of that 650,000 is still buying equipment for maintenance. It's paying our stormwater personnel salary, so it's not going to. It's going towards maintaining the system. So part of it is, I'd say probably 40% is maintaining the system and 60% would be rough numbers. 60% is new projects.
So Bryce's line item for that, it says stormwater fund to the capital project fund of $20,277 to pay for current or future vehicle replacements. So approximately about 20,000 would go.
Yeah.
Oh,
for
that's what we
vehicles
projected for
specifically, yeah.
2025, 2026.
one vehicle.
There you go,
Well, I'm just-
20,000.
What I'm getting at, you know, It's a 100% increase, granted, it's a small amount. And, that's why I was asking, what are the projects? What's the actual project cost? And maybe you could implement it like you did the sewer fee, just in a stage, and just hit the high priority things.
That's exactly what we're doing. If you look at the stormwater plan, it's a lot bigger than the 12 million. I think our first projection was some huge number. To go in and install storm drain was like $55 million, so we're doing exactly what you're.
Yeah, so
We're tackling the most critical areas now and trying to get those fixed. Is that what you're asking?
Well, yeah, and of course, 415,000 is a drop in a bucket. You're not going to do too much with that.
Right.
So, but I was just, wondering how much of that was actually going to be on projects. I know that all this funds, reserve fund stuff and all that, but,
So 20,000 of that is projected in the budget to go to vehicle
Right.
replacement?
Yep,
And the
yep,
other
yep.
portion will go to project?
But yeah, in rough numbers, about 400,000 goes towards projects, and I don't know if you have the line item there. My recollection is it's somewhere in the 600 to 650 is my total budget. So 400,000 of about 600 to 650 is actual projects in the ground.
well, that's good. I realize, we've got it, this one sump, when it rains really hard, it floods the whole street.
Yeah.
Where we live. But anyway, I'm just concerned about the 100% increase. Granted, it's $10, who cares, but it's still a 100% increase. And, nickel and dime, I am on a fixed income, so I have to be careful on that.
Totally get it.
So, anyway,
It's a concern for sure.
yep, thanks.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Any other comments? I'm seeing we don't have, oh, Lacey, go ahead.
It's actually more of a question. I just wondered, what is an impact fee and how does that, you said it's for new development? Does that mean like some people in town don't pay it if they're already in older homes and then new people moving in pay it? And is this like annual or did the developer just increase the price of the house this much or I just don't understand.
So
Great question.
Yeah, there's a lot of, so there's impact fees for parks, there's impact fees for the new developments on the system, and that's exactly what it is that because we're building more stuff that has an impact, and so the developers have to pay their portion of, you're impacting it by this amount. There's a lot of study and calculation that goes into it, but that's what it is. It's paid by the developers, and
It's
yeah, I
a
would,
lot.
It's a one-time
yeah.
payment.
Oh, it's a one-time, so
When
the
they pull a building
developer,
permit, there's a long list of fees that you have to pay, water, PI, sewer. This will be one of those fees that the developer pays.
okay, so it just makes it that, $1,000 more for the developer and then they just charge $1,000 more for the house.
They'll pass it on, yeah.
In theory.
So, okay, cool. Thanks.
Thanks, Lacey. Any other questions, comments? Seeing there are none, we'll close the public hearing portion and look for a motion for item 14.
I make a motion to approve the ordinance to increase the stormwater utility fee.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jones, a second by Councilman Carlson.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Carlson, yes.
Egbert, yes.
All right, great. That's all of our items this evening. We'll go to our administrative reports. We'll start with you, Chief, if you got something for us.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll be very fast. Just text Chief Glasgow. He didn't have anything to report, so nothing from fire. A couple things on the police side. Youth Academy is going awesome. This is such a fun group. There's 18 of them, and boy, they are dishing it out to Bringhurst. They are just attacking. They are teasing him like no other. So it's been fun. We have 3 more weeks with the Youth Academy on Thursday nights, and then they're done. The speed complaints are rolling in pretty fast. I've got a backlog or
Fast.
pretty fast, yeah. I didn't mean to do that, but good catch, Reed. I've got a waiting list on the speed trailer and the black boxes, so if you get some speed complaints, just zap me an email and I'll get on that list. But we're a few weeks out right now on some of the complaint roads that we have. And then the last thing is just a reminder, every year this time, I offer our officers to other cities during their city celebrations in exchange for what we get during ours. So this weekend, you'll see our guys down in Springville if you're down there. Also, they're committed to Payson and Salem later in the year, and most likely a couple other cities too. So that when you see them in other cities and wonder what's going on, that's the trade that we make for help from other cities in July. So I just want to make sure you remember that. Thanks.
Thanks, Chief. All right, Sean.
Nothing for me. We do have a couple of closed session items, so.
Yeah. Okay, Rob? Anything else?
So I've got some updates with some, at least potential or finer dates on all of our roadway stuff that's going on. So if you've seen, we did a leveling course, emphasis, that is not the final product, right? That's the first step of fixing up 1600 North and then Slanton Road. But we did the leveling course there just to make it a smoother ride before we come and do the micro seal later on. So that leveling course is in, crack seal, which you approved tonight, should start within the next week or two. So that'll go before the end of this month. Our guys are working with Spanish Fork using their Mastic machine to fill in some of the, test out, filling in some of our areas that are either rough or smaller potholes. It seems to be working out well. The mill and fill project should be coming in before the end of the month. That's the one where they grind down and then build back. There's some areas off of 1200 East, a section of 1600 North, and then one small street that has a bunch of utility cuts on the northwest side of town. HA5 will be kind of all over the place. They will probably come in after our Pioneer Days, but if we can get the crack seal done fast enough, because we're crack sealing before they come in, they may do it before. But it'll be in July. We're still trying to finalize whether that's going to be 1st of July or the last of July. Microseal will be the last of July. 300 West project, we have the bid opening tomorrow, so we'll be bringing that in July for your approval, and they should get started pretty soon after that. 800 West, we're getting things reviewed through UDOT, since it is that 800 West Maple Street intersection, since that is their roadway. And then that'll go, we'll get contractors to bid on that and put that out to bid. And then 800 North, we're also doing the kind of final coordination through UDOT, and that should be going out to bid soon. So a lot of roadway changes before the end of the year.
Great. It's exciting. Thanks, Rob. Get her done. Okay, Reed?
My mention at the main the main meeting for the transfer station, the fiscal budget for next year was approved with the increases that I've already talked about that's worked into our budget. So there was no increase, there was no deduction, so that was just what I proposed. And the seniors last, I guess luncheon is tomorrow till September. They've had a good time, have had a good run, so
Good.
yay seniors, except they're going to be in the parade this year again.
Awesome. Thanks for doing that. And on behalf of the council and the city, we mourn with you on your loss and know that the only healing thing is time, and whatever we can do to help you or anything we can do, we're here for you, support you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Hey, Reed, do you have any more details on the tour of the sewer plant? I have it on my calendar for Thursday.
About that, Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, that was the other update that I
Oh,
forgot to put into my
okay.
notes on my phone, but, but I had indicated, I had misunderstood that it was, maybe more exclusive to the city council and mayors. It is a public open house.
Oh, okay.
So there will be tours. So, that will be available tomorrow, 4 to 6 PM, if you guys want to do that. Actually, Jessica won't be able to make it, and it's my birthday tomorrow, so I won't be able to make it. So we've actually got one set up for the 25th. From 4 to 5 PM also. So if you can't make it tomorrow, we can do a more exclusive.
We agreed to do it tomorrow because it was your birthday.
Yeah.
And you're
I
not
know,
going?
That was a birthday
So I'm not,
present.
I'm not there. Yeah, that's what I always wanted. Black tie event, black when you leave, even if it wasn't the one you entered.
I'll
But
send out an
Birthday
email in the
present is to
morning.
drink a glass of water at the end.
there we go.
I'll send an email in the morning with that other date and time.
Okay.
So then you can choose whether you want to go tomorrow or if you'd like to, both Rob and Jessica, we can
Well,
set
if it's
that up.
half as interesting as that transfer station,
Yeah.
that
I don't
might
think
be
it
the
will,
highlight
but-
of my month or year or something. I'm not sure.
I'll let-
I don't know what that says about my life right now.
Zach
but
is the,
that's where we're at.
Zach is the wastewater manager over at Spanish Fork. I'll let him know that the bar was set really high.
Expectations high.
You have expectations.
The antique cars, I don't think they're going to be able to get it.
No, he did emphasize it's going to be it's going to be very informal. They will have several guys that can walk you around and show you the place, but it is going to be a pretty informal process
Okay.
tomorrow. So
Great. Jessica?
A couple things. We've got our Community Preparedness Committee meeting literally right now, so we're late.
We're going to get done just in time.
It started at 7:30. So.
Oh, shoot.
That's okay. We got Melanie. She runs a tight ship on that one. Yeah. We had an inkling with the agenda, but it's okay. And that committee is really focused right now on supporting Pioneer Days and then the 2 events in the fall. So you'll hear more about those. Interesting updates. You might have caught it on the news that if you remember that Beehive agency that was snuck into the last legislative session and got that said that basically this agency could come in and make decisions on behalf of without city consent on where particular developments would be, and it got squelched there. It came back as the Governor's Economic Development Coordinating Council. So that exists now, but it doesn't have the authority or the funding that this awful agency would have had, and there are more voices to represent cities on that council. So FYI, it exists, but it's not the Beehive agency. So I think we'll see what happens with that. The intent of it is very good, to align all of the state's departments toward major strategic initiatives. So like the intent is good, but the structure was not great before. So we'll see. I'm more hopeful about this one. Question, we've talked a lot about water, so I've got a question about water, about the drainage and containment issues that we had citizens bring forward at our last meeting. Are there any updates or information on those?
Yes. Do you want to do those, Corey, now, or do you want to wait till the meetings we had, or do you want to handle those, Rob?
Yeah, I unfortunately wasn't here, but the one,
The one you went to.
Mapleton Heights. Yeah, Mapleton Heights. We've gone out there. We jetted all around their initial gravel outfall into the basin, cleaned that up quite a bit. It does look like what had happened after the initial gradings, where we do our inspection to make sure it was all built correctly. There is a lot of restrictions on us being able to make requirement or do inspections after landscaping has been put in. And what it looks like is, from what I can see on the reviews, because this was built before I got here, but from the feedback that I can get, is that it was all, it is gravelly soil out there. And so we did our inspection, it was all gravelly, and then when the landscaper came in to plant with sod, it seems like they brought in a nice layer of silty soil and kind of sealed the whole thing up. And so what we're going to do is we've got what we feel like is a solution. See if we can work with the developer and or HOA to put that into place. But we've gone out there and cleaned what we could with them, pumped it all out. Actually pumped it all over to across the street to an unimproved area, and it soaked right into the ground, no matter how fast we could pump it. So, I mean, the underlying soils are good. It's just that there's a seal between between the top and where the gravelly soils are.
The retention pond.
They did, yeah. Which is, it's typical for them to landscape. It's another one we'll probably update as we update this towards the end of this year, all of our design guidelines. I think we're going to give a little bit more, we need to put a little bit more clarification on this is what we expect in the final product, not just the initial grading that we expected.
Their HOA and developer is going to hold a public meeting with their neighborhood group to get their feedback and to explore options, because they own it. It's not the city doesn't own it, so they're going to have to come together to decide on a solution. So, but they are doing that. So that's
And Rob, you've been communicating with MJ. She was the one that kind of was leading the discussion last time, so she's been aware of what we've been doing. Yep. Let's hit on the next one, Rob, as far as that Mapleton Village.
So that was the retention basin.
Mapleton,
The other
yeah.
one is the flooding of the backyards that we went and visited with Daniels.
Yeah, so Mapleton Village, we've had a lot of discussion on this, and Seth went out and shot kind of along the back property lines to see how big of an issue it is. But it's another one where I think we're going to do two things: is get with the properties along there, and just as they landscape out, what the overlying solution in Mapleton Village is not the only one. Is there's kind of two things. Is sometimes in a lot of areas, even when you have flooding, before everybody landscapes, a lot of that runoff goes away when everybody landscapes, so the vegetation soaks it in better and everything. So there's some where it's just a lot that needs to be done. But really with how, these are smaller lots and berms that were put in when the homes were built have been taken out by homeowners. They put in fences and everything. And so it's number one, educating the people along the street as to what they need to be doing as they landscape. But on top of that, we can't just we feel like we can't just hold it that while one lady down at the poor lady down at the very bottom is having her basement flooded out. So we're coming up with a plan to pipe it out and have an overflow out onto the street that it can go to the larger developments.
Because of the way that it
retention system.
slopes, luckily, it comes down one side, so when we pipe it to the storm drain, the inlet to the storm drain in the street, it will go to this detention basin, which is one of those that, the silt's cleaned out and then it'll
Is
infiltrate.
the developer responsive to, is it our obligation and our expense as a city, or is the developer engaged with us?
The developer's listening and working with us, but it's the homeowners putting in their landscape and changing their grades and.
I mean, just this particular one. I get it with the other one, but the one at the bottom that it sounds like we're doing a little bit extra to help that.
Well, so we'll come up with the plan, and our first approach is going to be
Have the developer.
go to the
do it.
developer
We
and
want him
say,
to do
hey,
the work.
we feel like
Yeah.
you should do this, yeah.
Okay.
And we have a good,
Great.
well, I personally have a good relationship, a long working relationship with this developer.
I'm going to trust that they'll come do the right thing.
Me too. So,
Awesome.
One-
Thanks
one
for
comment,
following
just
up with that. I
think-
appreciate it.
Yeah, and thanks to Dallas and Rob, there were about 4 or 5 residents that met us one morning out there, and we walked the properties with them, and felt that was beneficial too, so.
good question.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, good. Thanks, Jessica.
I do not have a report.
All right, Theron.
No report, but I do want to make a comment. I want to thank the citizens that have come tonight. It's not often that we get citizens, especially that endure this long of an agenda, but kudos to you guys for coming and being involved and maybe learning a little bit. To me, we represent you guys, and it's fun to see citizens come and get involved, so thanks.
Dave told me he was just bored, that's why he's here.
It's been very interesting.
Better to do.
It's, oh, thanks. Thanks, Dave. All right, Camille? Corey?
Yeah, just, and one of you brought that up earlier, so Destiny Skinner started with us last Monday, or 2 Mondays ago, and she's replaced Madison. 20 years of experience. It's been nice. She's come right in and been able to just take off with things, and met with all the department heads, had some good interaction with them. We gave them, day one was like, we got this Pioneer Day magazine that needs to get completed. We were a little worried if she was going to be able to tackle that, and she did. That was easy. and-
She's had a lot of experience in
Yeah.
that, though. Her experience where she came from with magazines and ad stuff is super helpful.
When do we get to meet her?
If you'd like, I could have her come to the next council meeting, or you're welcome to, we can set up a time where you can just come into the office and visit.
I'd love
with
for her to come and tell us about her vision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
That would be really neat. I've noticed the stylistic changes. I mean, more emojis for sure. So I was like, somebody was hired. So, yeah, I'd love
Corey
to.
was
that was-
doing
that
that,
was
actually,
Sean, yeah.
Jessica, Corey was
It was
doing that.
Corey?
yeah.
Does
He was
Corey know
bridging
how
the
to
gap.
do emojis? Yeah, but just to hear what her vision and what she thinks we can improve upon or whatever, that'd be great.
Okay, we'll bring her to the next
Make her
meeting.
sweat a little bit.
Yeah,
But we
there
need
you
her
go.
to spend enough time unraveling everything to be able to come with some,
Yeah,
but yeah, she's got great experience. She'll like it.
love it.
And then speaking of next meeting, so you get in that July timeframe, you got July 2nd and July 16th. How's your July 2nd looking with that being close to the 4th of July?
I'm here,
You're good?
going nowhere.
Okay,
I'm fine with it, yeah.
so let's plan on,
I'm fine.
I thought we were canceling everything in July.
I'm open to
Don?
that.
I tried.
Did you talk to him behind closed doors or something?
We could just go to one meeting, whether it be the 2nd or the 16th.
Or none?
Do you anticipate having, what do you anticipate the agenda
Anything on-
Projects.
to be? What?
I am,
I'll be bringing projects.
Gosh.
I would rather do the second
Yes.
because having the staff come on the 16th when they're already
Yeah, it
going
is.
to be pushing
Yeah.
overtime. Like if, and there's things in the evenings too. So I would say if we're going to keep it and we're available, sounds like most of us are, to keep the second.
Robert, would you be ready with items by the 2nd, or do you want to do another July 9th special meeting?
Yeah, we'll have at least 300 West. I'm hoping to have 800 West. I'm hoping to have 800 West ready for your approval as well. 800 North is less likely on the 2nd.
Just email it to us.
Yeah, so if it's after, we can email it.
I mean, those we've already
Yeah.
gone through, and we know what they are, so.
Yeah.
We're
If that's
not-
all it is, and you don't have anything pressing that's a timing issue, just
Okay.
email them to us and we'll give you a
Let's
thumbs
do
up.
this. I'll work with department heads, and then Mayor, I'll get with you, and we can kind of decide how.
Yeah, that'd be
And
good.
we are
proceed.
not meeting next week, correct?
No.
That's correct. That's correct. So we're done for June.
Let's decide to, in July 16th, we are not meeting, because what
Second.
Jessica
Okay.
just
I
said.
second that.
Okay, all right.
Very good. And as Sean mentioned, if we can go into closed session, discussing purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, so.
All right, we'll look for a motion to close the public portion and make a motion to go into the closed session, which is on here.
I make a motion to adjourn the normal session and open a closed session, convene into a closed session pursuant to 52-4-205 as provided by Utah Code.
Second.
I'll say,
A motion by Councilman Garrett and a second by Councilmember Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Thank you guys for coming. It's awesome. Okay, appreciate it.
Are you going,